And if I told you that Ferrari, the most emblematic team of Formula One, has secretly designed a critical evolution that could completely change its destination in 2025? Are we facing the rebirth of the Scuderia or the beginning of the end? Ferrari has been trapped in a nightmare that did not see coming. With 183 points in the Constructors' Championship, the team is not only behind McLaren and Mercedes, but also has not achieved a single victory. Not one. It is not a minor fact. It is a condemnation that weighs like a slab, especially when you have one of the most successful pilots of all time in talent like Charles Leclerc. The disappointment is not external. It comes from within the team. It comes from the frustration of pilots who can no longer hide their discontent with the machine they drive. The SF25 cannot operate at the low shooting height that demands current aerodynamic efficiency because doing so violently wears the skid block, something that already cost Hamilton points. As a solution, they have had to raise the chassis, but that completely cancels the efficiency of the flow under the ground. It is a technical contradiction that the car cannot solve with mere settings. The car does not respond, it does not evolve, it does not improve. It is a design trapped in itself. The mechanical concept has become a shirt of force. And that has forced Hamilton to do something that was not expected: adapt his style. He, the 7-time champion, has had to emphasize his way of braking, of taking curves, of using the accelerator, to try to survive with a car that never finishes giving him confidence. In a sport where every tenth matters, this type of adaptation means losing races before starting them. Leclerc, on the other hand, has been caught between its historical frustration with the Scuderia and its impotence to change things. It is no longer about making strategic mistakes as in previous seasons. The problem is that they simply do not have a car to fight with. His aggressive style, which depended on a stable front and late braking, has been disarticulated by a car that loses load in fast curve and bounces on irregular surfaces. Internally there is tension. There are cross statements. There are doubts that have even reached the core of the technical department. Some engineers believe that planned updates will not solve anything. Others, that the error is in the full approach of the SF25 project. The technical direction has been forced to improvise solutions that would normally take a complete winter of work. Time has become the enemy. Each race without results converts the narrative of the new Ferrari de Hamilton into a cruel joke. Despair has led to urgent responses. Because Ferrari not only runs against Red Bull, McLaren or Mercedes, run against his own story. And now, with the Austrian Grand Prix around the corner, they know they are facing an abyss. Or the radical evolution they prepare changes the destination of the team, or sink without remedy. In modern Formula One, technical evolutions are not mere patches. They are acts of faith. They are total bets that expose the fragility of a team when the foundations fail. And that is exactly what Ferrari has done with the package that plans to enter the Austria Grand Prix. It is no longer an improvement of half a second. It is greater surgery. An internal restructuring of the SF25 that reveals how criticism is the real situation of the team. The centerpiece of this bet is the rear suspension, a component that, on paper, should be a simple vertical load manager. But in the case of SF25, it has become the heart of its problems. The current design, approved in mid-2024, turned out to be incompatible with the gearbox and the distribution of the weight required by the current technical regulations. The result has been devastating. A bouncing car which loses traction in fast curves and becomes unstable in changes of direction. To understand the magnitude of the redesign, you have to look at what Ferrari has done with this new version of the suspension. It is not a simple modification of the upper arm or a shock absorber change. It is a total transformation of the film set. The objective is double. Increase the internal space for shock absorbers and modify geometry to improve lateral energy absorption without compromising the torsional stiffness of the car. This is key to recovering a low operating window without the choppy car against asphalt, as happened in China and Australia. This new design has already gone through dynamic bank tests and, according to internal sources, has demonstrated a significant improvement in the ability to maintain the filming height without sacrificing stability. But the most interesting thing is that Ferrari has incorporated technology that did not exist in its car until now. A floating pivot architecture that allows greater control over vertical behavior without compromising the lateral response. This technology, used successfully by McLaren and Red Bull in previous years, now becomes the lifeguard of Maranello. But Ferrari does not stop there. Because a new suspension by itself does not transform a car if the aerodynamic flow remains poor. Therefore, the new package also includes a completely redesigned soil. This piece is perhaps the most critical in the era of modern soil effect. It is not simply to add load. It is about generating stable load in a range of work where vertical oscillations do not generate pressure peaks that break the balance of the car. This new soil is inspired by the concept that McLaren introduced in Bahrain, a greater channeling of flow to the rear, accompanied by modifications in the area of the venturi channels and the diffuser. Ferrari has also integrated a new design in internal brake drums, with directional slats that allow regulating the flow of hot air to key soil areas, thus increasing thermal performance and improving the aerodynamic balance in slow curve. The team has validated this new set in Maranello's wind tunnel and has resorted to CFD simulations that show a potential gain of up to 0.4 seconds per lap. However, no simulator can replicate the uncertainty of the real asphalt. And there lies the risk. Because if the simulation data does not translate into track, Ferrari will not only have wasted critical resources in the middle of the season, you will also have lost your last technical bullet to close the gap with McLaren, Mercedes, and Red Bull. What Ferrari has played in Austria is not a tenth or so. It is its credibility as a construction team. It is the validation or collapse of a technical plan that launched more than 6 months ago. It is the difference between giving Hamilton a car with which he can fight for podiums in the second half of the year, or condemn him to a journey in the desert. And there is a last detail that makes it even more dramatic. This evolution comes just before the critical European Tour, where technical differences are magnified by circuit demands such as Silverstone, Spa, or Monza. If the package works in Austria, it can be a springboard. If it fails, you can mark the beginning of an irrelevant second semester for Ferrari. A semester in which, rather than compete, they will have to justify their permanence in the elite. Austria is not simply one more stop on the calendar. For Ferrari, the Red Bull Ring has become a battlefield where much more will be decided than a weekend. It is the scenario in which a recovery can begin or where the sentence of a failed campaign can be sealed. What happens there will resonate in the rest of the season, because this evolution is not only technical, it is symbolic. It marks the dividing line between hope and collapse. The Red Bull Ring route is a ruthless judge. It is not the longest, but one of the most demanding in terms of general equilibrium of the car. Its high-speed curves, aggressive slopes, and traction areas demand a stable, rigid, but at the same time sensitive enough to take advantage of every centimeter of track. If the new suspension and the redesigned soil of Ferrari work here, it will be the first clear sign that the SF25 is still margin of evolution. But if the car is still nervous, unstable, or slow, the consequences could be irreversible. Faced with this fierce competition, Ferrari has to hit. There is no room for operational errors, conservative decisions, or defensive strategies. Lewis Hamilton knows it. His role is no longer just the pilot. It is the leader, developer, media figure, and internal pressure point. It is not enough to add points. You have to demonstrate that it can be competitive with a redesigned car under its influence. Because if Austria does not mark a tangible turn, the narrative that placed him as El Salvador de Ferrari could crumble as fast as it arose. Charles Leclerc also faces a personal crossroads. This is his 6th year with Ferrari, and after so many unfulfilled promises, he needs results. His talent is not in doubt, but his relationship with the team could become unsustainable if this new package does not allow him to compete in front. Leclerc has been patient. He has defended the red shirt with pride, even when the results did not accompany him. But that patience has limits, and Austria can be the drop that tilt the balance in one sense or another. The impact of this moment goes beyond the pilots. At the institutional level, the pressure on Frederic Vasseur and the technical department is maximum. If this evolution does not bear fruit, the directive dome could make drastic decisions. In Formula One, the cycles break quickly, and in Maranello there is little tolerance to sustained failure. The new regulation of 2026 is just around the corner. The decisions that are made now will determine if Ferrari reaches that new cycle as a contender, or as a more team that was caught in their own history. Austria, then, is not just another career. It is a definitive exam. If Ferrari manages to place his cars on the podium, if the evolution translates into tangible results, if the behavior of the SF25 changes visibly, then the story can turn. Then you can start a different narrative. One where there is talk of recovery, resilience, of a team that knew how to reinvent itself halfway. But if not, if the car continues to fail, if the pilots complain about the same erratic behavior, if the technical promises are not seen on track, then Ferrari's 2025 will be marked as one of its greatest modern disappointments. A year they had everything to return, and ended up falling even more deep. Formula One does not forgive. The time a team needs to redeem yourself is much longer than the time it takes to the rest of the world to forget it. Ferrari knows better than anyone. And what is played in Austria are not just tenths of a second. It is your narrative, his prestige, his reason for being in the modern era of this sport. The media pressure will be immense. Every detail will be analyzed with magnifying glass. Each gesture of Hamilton or Leclerc, each statement of Vasseur, every telemetry data that is filtered, everything will be part of a trial that has already begun, even before the lights are listed in Austria. And now, I invite you to be part of this trial. Do you think this evolution will mark a before and after for Ferrari? Or do you think it is a late reaction that will only serve to make up a lost season? Does Hamilton still the power to reverse the course of a team that has spent too much time in anyone's land? Leave it to the comments. Do you think Ferrari is on the right path? Or do you think they need something more radical? And if you are not yet signed, this is the time.